Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to do a market update for what happened in March 2021 for the entire LA County. And at the end of this, I'm going to share some conditions you should look for to see what kind of recovery we're going to be having. I think it's pretty much almost a given fact for everybody that COVID is pretty much towards its final leg now that the vaccine is out, and it does appear that that vaccine is working. I think you're starting to see everywhere you go that there's more and more people coming out. There's less and less fear of COVID, which is a good sign. But then there are still some conditions we need to look for to see if there really is going to be a recovery and whether we're really going to see a change on these numbers. So let's get started today. So starting off, we're going to look at office space. The rent price per square foot per year is at $40.78. And then annual rent growth, we have a negative 2.7. Now with the cap rate, we're at 5.7%, and we have a whopping vacancy factor at 13%. All right. So essentially that means, let's just say there's 100 spaces, 13 out of that 100 is vacant. So sale price per square foot, we're looking at on average $429. Now let's look at industrial. We're looking at $13.81 per square foot per year, and we're looking at annual rent growth at 2.9% and a cap rate at 4.8% and the vacancy factor at a low 2.8%. And then a sale price per square foot per year, $225. Now let's move on to the retail sector. And one thing to point out, I was at the mall this weekend, and man, there were a lot of stores for lease. They're vacant, blocked out. Whoever was there before was gone. I mean, I haven't been to the mall for a long time, but I've never seen it this empty. I mean, this many stores available for lease where there's nobody occupying the space. But let's jump into it. Looking at rent price per square foot per year at $32.41 and annual rent growth at negative 2.9% and a cap rate at 5.4%. and a vacancy factor at 5.4% average, and a sale price per square foot per year at $383. Now, last but not least, multifamily sector, everybody's favorite, the apartments. We all love dealing with tenants, right? So we're looking at $1,948 per unit for rent on average, and an annual rent growth at negative 1%, and a cap rate at 4.3%, with a vacancy factor at 6.2% and an average price per door per unit at $349,000. So what I want to bring up about conditions to look for is, are we seeing any permanent changes in behavior? Sure, everything is opening up, but if there's some permanent changes in behavior, some of these numbers are going to be permanently altered. As in, are offices starting to change the way they structure their schedule for the employees to come in, one day in, one day out? So as in part-time in the office, part-time at home? Or are they going to have the full staff back in the office? And there's starting to be more and more signs that they are changing over to part of the staff can be working from home part-time. So that's definitely one thing to consider, the work factor. The next condition to look at is entertainment. Is the way that people are going to be enjoying entertainment going to be different? Such as the movies, are people still going to go en masse to the movie theater? Or are movie releases going to be direct to the home? Or people more and more these days have big gigantic TVs, sound bars, a full speaker system, and even 3D, right? Not 3D, what is that? That thing, that VR, virtual reality, right? So people can do all that at home these days. So that comes to question whether movie theaters are ever going to be the same again. And if they're not the same again, they're not going to be drawing in the large crowds that they used to. And then those tenants that are next to those movie theaters, they paid a high rent just to be next to the movie theater, under the assumption that that movie theater will bring in a lot of foot traffic. Now, if that changes, then man, these tenants are here, they're overpaying. They're not getting the adequate foot traffic to support their business, and one thing leads to another, a bad snowball effect. So those are some of the things to look out for, some of the conditions to look for to see, get a sneak peek of how things will turn out over here. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me for the market update. Feel free to reach out to me anytime, and you know how to get a hold of me already.